Hey, Tim with Perkins Roofing here, and today we're going to talk about the 5 most common ways that I see other contractors trying to rip people off. The number one way that a contractor is going to try to rip off a client is just by using cheaper products. So maybe they go to Home Depot and they're using Home Depot goods and like cheaper rolls or cheaper shingles than what they should be using, because that's how they're going to get their competitive advantage, is just by being the cheapest guy. So that means that they're also using cheaper materials. And when you use cheaper materials, you're not building your project for the long term. You're basically taking that short-term gain of having less cost up front, but you're going to have long-term pain as both the client and as the contractor, because if you're a contractor using cheaper materials, you're not going to be in business for a very long time. You're going to make some quick money, and then once you get some leaks on your roofs and you're dodging customers when they're calling you about their leaks, then you're going to go out of business. Where if you're a client and you hired the cheapest guy, now maybe your roof gets a leak and you call them and they're not answering the phone, they're ghosting you, they're dodging you, and now you can't get somebody to come fix your roof. And you're supposed to have a warranty, but your warranty is only as good as the reputation and how long the contractor has been in business. The other thing with using cheaper products is that sometimes contractors might not be using the correct materials for the situation. Some situations call for more expensive products, like terrace decks. There are only so many terrace deck systems out there that are actually worth using when a lot of them fail. So you want to make sure that you have the correct product for the situation. The second item that I see contractors trying to rip clients off with is warranty loopholes. Now, I have a lot of clients that show me competing bids or bids from other contractors, and I look at their warranties and I can see ways that they're trying to write themselves out of liability for the project. So they're going to put this roof on using cheaper products and cutting corners, and then they're going to write their liability away by giving a crappy warranty. So basically, they're going to try to find a way to not honor the workmanship of the warranty, or to pin the warranty on maybe the material manufacturer. Next would be shorter warranties that don't cover workmanship. And something to note too is there are multiple types of warranties that you get when you're getting a roof. If you have the opportunity to get the NDL warranty from the manufacturer, do it, because that's going to cover you in case the contractor goes out of business, or in case something happens with the contractor, or the contractor only has a 10-year term and then you get a 20-year NDL warranty. That would cover that gap coverage. Usually they're like $750 or something like that. And when you're talking about a $20,000, $30,000, sometimes more dollar roof, $750 for an extra 10 years of protection, or for that extra like liability that you want to avoid taking from a contractor going out of business, in my opinion, it's definitely worth it. Lastly is just going out of business. There's a lot of contractors out there who are only around for a few years. That's why I suggest in my other video, which you can see in the link below, you need to check Sunbiz to see how long the contractor has been in business for. Because if they haven't been around for a while, maybe they just reopen a new business every few years, do some roofs. Then when people start calling, they go out of business, start a new business, nobody can find them, and they just keep doing it over and over again. It's not that hard to do that. And a lot of people will do that, especially when people are out there and they're just going to hire the cheapest guy. There's always going to be someone willing to hire that cheapest guy, and that cheapest guy is going to do a crappy job. And so people are going to just keep hiring that cheapest guy just because he's the cheapest guy. So the third thing I see people doing to rip off clients is cutting corners. A lot of contractors out there are just going to do things the easy way. They're going to cut corners. They're not going to do their details properly and take their time. Or they're not going to change the wood or the metal that they should be changing. Maybe a piece of wood is a little rotted and not all the way rotted, so they leave it just to save time. Happens with metals too. Maybe they're not changing rusted out metal or stucco metal, or changing fasteners in the metal when they should be. Or they're not taking the time to look at the surroundings. If there's cracks in the walls, or if there's bad caulking on the windows, things like this are things that I tell my customers about. Hey, you need to look at the whole structure of the home and let the customer know other things that might affect water intrusion, because anytime that you have water intrusion, people are going to blame the roofer, even if we put a brand new roof on and then the windows are leaking. And as far as cutting corners, the other thing to take note is that new construction and developers are infamous for cutting corners. So if you think you have a new house and you have no problems, I saw a house the other day that was only 2 years old and had leaks all over the place. And guess what? The developer warranty was only for 1 year. So now they have a 2-year-old house that has leaks because the developer failed to put metal in on the flashings. So developers are infamous for it. So just because you have a new house doesn't mean that you're impervious to leaks. Number 4, and this is the hardest for most customers who don't know much about construction to get around, is change orders. There are a lot of contractors out there who make their bread and butter off of change ordering customers to death. So they come in and they have a very low base bid, an unrealistically low base bid price. And then what they do is they write these line items into their contract or keep their contract very purposefully vague so that you don't have the details of what the job entails. Whereas our contract, if you look at a Perkins roofing contract, a re-roof might have 20 different line items on it, and we're telling you all the products that we're using. We're telling you our installation method, and if you look in the permit, you see the NOAs of how to do this and that. Last, our number 5 thing to look out for, and maybe the most important, is to make sure that your contractor has proper insurance. Especially down here in South Florida, there are a ton of contractors running around without the proper insurance. I saw a COI the other day of a guy who told me that he was a roofer and he wanted me to hire him to be a subcontractor, and his insurance was under painting insurance. So there are roofing companies out there who might hire this sub, and who have hired this sub, because obviously this guy's been roofing for 10 years in Miami and he doesn't have insurance for roofing. He has painter's insurance. And I've learned from experience on this because I've had problems in the past where we weren't vetting COIs as much as we should have, and then all of a sudden we get an insurance claim due to something a subcontractor did, and their insurance doesn't cover it, so Perkins Roofing has to pick up the tab. Now, if you hire a contractor like Perkins Roofing, at least our insurance is going to cover that for you as the client. So you need to make sure that the roofer you hire, you need to be hiring a company like Perkins Roofing that has that insurance shield for you. If you hire the guy in the truck, that's the guy that I'm hiring as a subcontractor. That's the guy running around with painter's insurance. That's the guy running around with exclusions that don't cover water damages when it's a roofing project, or exclusions when you're doing a high-rise condominium and the insurance only covers 4 stories and under, or maybe the insurance doesn't cover townhomes. There's all kinds of exclusions in these policies, so you have to make sure that the contractor you're hiring is reputable and is carrying correct insurance. Now, talking about that, I'm only really thinking about liability right now, but when you also have to consider workers' comp claims and insurance, that's also necessary. You don't want a roofer falling off a ladder in your yard and then suing you as the homeowner when they're the one who fell off due to probably something that they were doing that's negligent, or they were not following OSHA protocols or being safe. So you need to make sure that your roofer also has a workers' comp COI that covers their people. You don't want someone falling and then they sue you, the homeowner, because the roofer has no insurance, and then the guy who fell, who works for the roofer, has nobody to go after. To close everything up, the best advice that I can give to you as a consumer is to meet the contractors in person, meet them on site, and pick the contractor that you trust the most. Don't just pick the cheapest guy. So that will get you where you want to go in your project. If you pick the cheapest guy, that's where you're going to get in trouble most of the time. And if you guys could, we really appreciate it if you follow us on YouTube and you like our videos. Thanks.